now.
Okay. So I'm calling the meeting to order. Historic Structures Advisory Board. Now I'll read the lengthy script. As a preliminary matter, this is the Historic Structures Advisory Board. Permit me to confirm that all the members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Lucy?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Thank you. Staff, when I call your name, please respond. Holly?
Present.
Thank you. And no anticipated speakers as far as I know. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Historic Structures Advisory Board is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020 due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Historic Structures Advisory Board is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to share your screen on your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available at the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective, clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. All right. So, moving forward, members are present. We're adopting the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Lucy's motioned. Is there a second?
Second.
Angus seconded. All those in favor, Lucy? Aye for Lucy. Jason?
Aye.
Angus?
Aye.
And I'm in favor. So no minutes to approve, so we'll go on. Before we go on, I've been trying to come up with a really great way to make sure our comments are pretty concise and accurate. And what I've done, and we're going to try this time. If it doesn't work, we can try something else. I've reviewed all the applications and I've written down my comments on the document. And what I will do is try to incorporate everybody's comments onto this document and then share my screen with you all, and you can see what I'm saying, what we're writing and presenting to the agency, and adjust as needed. So we'll give that a shot and see how that goes.
Great idea. I like that.
So moving on to the first item is 12 Lincoln Ave. We've seen this before many times. I'll go down the list and get your comments, and then I'll add mine at the end. So I need to record mine.
So, Mr. Chair, if you remember, you all saw this recently, and HDC had comments. They took your comments into consideration. It looks like the applicant has changed a little bit of the parking out front and how the court is indicated.
Okay, so any thoughts?
What were our comments last time? I thought we were having an issue with the parking being in front of the house and it's still there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep, that was a comment. Parking required by zoning. Cars can stack. Cobble strips is an improvement. Parking from Capom, question. Over propane tank, no need to park in front lawn. And let me just remind you all that, you, as advisory board, the HDC does take your comments into consideration, obviously, but there are considerations that comments that you all make and suggestions that they might not necessarily take into consideration. So just wanted to remind you all that.
Sure.
So go ahead, Lucy.
I went up there this morning and took a photograph or some photographs of the front of the house and of the back on Capom. I think parking in front of the house is a terrible idea, inappropriate. The facade of the house is not large. And you put vehicles in front of it, it ruins the whole look. And Holly, I don't know what you meant by propane tank. Is that what was in the area with the doggy run in the back on Capom? Because I did take photographs of that back area, and I can't see any reason why that they could not fit in parking in where that second dog lawn is for two smaller vehicles.
Right here.
No, right there, yes. And I don't know if you want to show the photographs that I took this morning. It was.
You guys didn't see those?
No, I only sent them to you, Holly.
Right now, I just had them up. Let me know if you guys can see them.
No, I didn't see them.
Can you see those right now? That one?
Yes.
That's the back
Okay.
on Capom.
Okay, let me go through. There we go.
Yeah.
So that's facing from
That's
Lincoln, correct?
from Lincoln Circle looking down the driveway. And as you can see on the right, the front of the house is not large, relatively speaking, for the neighborhood. And to put two vehicles in front of that porch, I think is totally inappropriate. There was a photograph I think I sent to you from another angle to the north. And, it's kind of busy up there. They got dumpsters, piles of dirt, porta potty truck, the whole bit. There. Nope, no, back one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, Lucy?
No, that's it.
So you're basically saying additional parking can be off Capom if needed, and obviously not in front.
Yeah, they can stack them in the driveway or Capom pump.
Jason?
I agree with Lucy. I think it's totally inappropriate. That's all.
I agree. I think, my biggest issue with what's being proposed is the parking up front, and there's room clearly on the back that can take two of the 6 shown spots to park.
Okay, I agree with all that. So what I have written, and so I'm going to share my screen. Share screen. Oh, I guess Holly, you're sharing the screen, so I can't. Okay, share screen. Okay, did that come up?
Yeah.
Yep.
I've lost it. Really? I don't see it. So you can see where I've got here. I don't see the screen that it's, but so I just basically said parking in front is inappropriate for this neighborhood. 5 spaces are not required. I did look in the zoning, and I'm pretty sure they only need 1 space for the main dwelling and 0.6 spaces per each bedroom in the second dwelling. So if they have 3 or 4 bedrooms, that's at most 2 extra spaces they'll need there. So I'm saying that they probably only need 2 or 3 spaces. The 2 spaces beside the house and the one in the garage should be enough. Others can be stacked in the driveway if needed. And you can put additional parking off Capom if needed also. So that's what I've got.
Yeah, that says it all.
Could I add too that, so conceivably, someone could completely overbuild their property. And then they say, oh, wait, we have all these bedrooms, so we need parking, so that they do parking in their whole front yard. I mean, this is a large lot. If they wanted more parking, they should have had less building.
Well, that's probably sort of a sequential thing with how they get their permits and show where the parking is as they do it. But I agree with you. I'm not sure what we can do about it at this point.
No, I'm just saying that, they were the ones who chose to have all this building on their property. You know what? Stacking cars in the driveway.
Yeah, and they're allowed to do that, and that counts as the space. So we don't need to approve it in the front yard.
Mr. Chair, that's going to be one of my comments to the applicant agent, that they need to confirm how many parking spaces were required based on their secondary dwelling approval letter from the planning board. It indicates it based on zoning, because of course, we don't know, we don't have it right on top of our fingertips on how many bedrooms are in that secondary dwelling. So we can't, we don't want to assume, but they need to confirm that. And obviously if they have the bare minimum and they can remove some of those parking spaces, that would be the overall comment on that.
Yeah. And
Are you going to include those photographs?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
the driveway is long enough to stack 3 or 4 cars, 2 or 3 cars in that driveway. So they should,
Oh, probably 4 or 5.
yeah, they should not need to put them in the front yard. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is 45 Holbert Ave demo. So there's a note on the agenda saying that no new material is submitted and the application is being tracked with another one.
Yes, so whenever you have a demo with a new building or demo move off with a, addition, whatever the case is, they're always tracking them with the proposal. So we did not receive any additional information for that demo move off. That's why it's indicated as such, but it's tracking with the new dwelling. So that's why it's done that way.
Are they going to open this application at all?
You got a crystal ball?
No, I mean, will it, because it's tracking with the main dwelling, are they going to then approve the main dwelling and then look at the demo application?
That's usually what they do.
Could I make a comment, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, hi, Mary, go ahead.
Hi. Hi. I think that this is, you're all circling around a really important point, which is that the HDC has been tracking new building permits and demolition permits. And as we saw with 10 Beach, giving a lot of, in Sconset, giving a lot of feedback to a developer, designer, or an architect about what they want on that new lot or what they want on the lot in the new structure, but never really making a decision about what's going to happen to the historic structure. And it's like that should be the first step. Either it is a historic building and it's worth preserving, or it isn't. And I would be interested if there's any way that we could all think about an improvement to the demolition process so that a historic building is really considered. And you'll be seeing this hopefully next week with a building that's going to come before you that I've been doing some research on up on the cliff. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. And thank you.
Marie, I think it's a really good point, and it's kind of where I was going with this, is that they should be, in my opinion, they should be making a decision about the demolition before they even start, at least fine tuning the replacement dwelling. So, Holly, can you ask that this, I mean, I've written some comments probably similar to what we said before, but at least, can you ask that at least the demolition application be brought up prior to their review of the new dwelling? And then they can read.
I guess it's up to the chair to make that.
Yeah.
It's not my call.
Well, I guess as they're opening the new dwelling, might be an appropriate time to mention, and maybe you just have to mention my comments about the demolition, or our comments about the demolition. You're doing that. But I think they need to hear, our concerns about the process and also more about the demolition. So I'm gonna open that application for us to review and comment on if we want to add additional thoughts to their review. So does anybody want to, I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
It's kind of the same as before, but I probably just worded it a little different. Do you see that? 45 Woodward Ave demo, do you see this?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to read that. Maybe a little unusual for the chair to go first in these applications, but it might make sense the way I'm handling these comments. So I'm just going to read these, and you can add comment on them and add to them. So what I'm saying is, we don't preserve historic houses because of the way they look or because we think we can replace them with more attractive houses. We preserve them because they are a part of our island history and part of the story of that neighborhood. This is a dangerous precedent to use as an excuse to improve the neighborhood and will lead to more demo requests on similar grounds. An effort should be made to work with the existing structure to meet the new needs of the owners. Other modifications can be made to improve the appearance if desired. The garage wing is most likely a more recent addition and could be redesigned or enlarged as needed. So, anybody want to add to those comments?
I agree with the comments as written. I think you've put that concisely and thoroughly. Yeah, I feel like not making any attempt to improve the existing historic structure is a dangerous precedent for preservation here.
Mm-hmm. Jason, you're nodding. Do you have any comments?
Agree. I agree with everything that's been said.
Okay, Lizzie?
Yeah, I agree. And what's considered an improvement in the neighborhood today you know, 20 years down the road might be considered horrendous.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, as is, do you want to add anything?
I think it's good, Mickey.
Great, thank you. All right. We need to look at, Holly needs to put up the, we'll go to the next application, which is the new dwelling. So Holly can do that, put that up.
So just to give you all where that conversation went with the last time it was before the commission on October 20th. I read your comments in the record like I always do. Should be preserved as it is historic. And I read Nantucket Preservation Trust's comments. Thank you, Mary, for those concerning the existing structure. Then there was discussion about it appreciating the building being 81 years old, but having read the packet and how it was moved and evolved, agreement with the applicant that it wouldn't be approved today and it lacks architectural integrity. However, let's see, no local Noradia inhabitant or architect is connected to this, although large, it exists, is nicely simplistic massing as opposed to a more recently perhaps overly refined and complex design in this area, or what is proposed to replace. He would like to see the elements replicated. So let's see what we got. I think the chair also mentioned about having a more front, took in your comments about that.
Have you submitted any revisions on this, Holly?
I believe that's what you're seeing in front of you.
They don't look any different.
I'd like to point out too, here we have a 5-bedroom house and there's only parking for 2 cars
Hmm.
compared to the other house.
Well, there's no second dwelling, and that's what added some more spaces on the other one.
Correct. I'm not sure when these were submitted, but they're on the agenda for old business. So I would just assume that these are been revised and
Mickey, I think that's probably an easy thing to assume that no changes have been made because they're not significantly visible. I believe that some of the windows have gotten larger. Some of the fenestration has changed. They gambrel on the left side, I think has moved in relation to the gambrel roof next to it. I think it's centered instead of being offset as it was before. But no, I mean, a quick look and everything reads pretty much as it was.
Yeah. So maybe again, I'll share my screen and show you my comments, and then you can add accordingly. Okay, I'll read these off. The massing proportions of the new design are awkward. The main mass should be much more dominant and larger than the west additive mass. The front door should be on the main mass, not pulled 16 feet forward as part of a forward projecting wing. This may look normal on the south elevation, but the door isn't where it appears. the west elevation, the small westward facing gambrel on the right is unnecessary and adds too much complexity to the design. Its narrow proportions are awkward. On the north, there should be more of a center dominant mass. This is unbalanced and not enough hierarchy with the additive mass. It looks like a left side and right side that don't connect to each other. So I'm going to take this down and let Holly put back up drawings so you can see them again. Any added thoughts on the changes or to add to my comments or detract from my comments?
I agree with your comments, Mickey. I wasn't on this before. I also, forgive me if you said this and I already have forgotten, but I just don't, if it remains a gambrel, I don't think a roof walk is appropriate on it.
That pretty much an agreement. All right, I'll add that.
Do you, Mickey, thanks for reading your comments and putting them up. Somehow did you write anything about the fenestration and the massing on the front? I think in general, you said the massing was awkward, but on the water side, which is really kind of the front of the house,
Yeah.
just the monolith of wall and window, and then the dormers being almost identical and the balconies being identical. It all sort of reads as one big wall.
Okay, let me try to add that in somehow.
And I've mentioned that to them before, Angus.
I'm going to put those into some concise words, Angus.
You said that this feels monolithic, changes are superficial, not enough example with rhythm. Was your previous comment before?
Yeah, there isn't enough. There needs to be more depth and difference of the water facing masses. So yeah, the dormers, they're almost in line with each other and they're almost identical in size. I think they might be identical in size. And so I would change the mass of it and step it back further or do something different with it. And also I would somehow break up in the main mass that forward facing wall with the double 3 gang windows. I would either do porch there or not have the mold. But again, I think all the things that I've mentioned contribute to it being more monolithic.
Mhm. All right, Angus, I've added on the north elevation, it feels monolithic, needs more depth and variation of massing, fenestration, and dormers. Is that safe enough, or do you want to modify?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Let's move on to the next, which is 3 Summer Street.
Which one are we doing now?
3 Summer.
Oh.
Right? Yes.
So the HDC did ask Ethan to provide a little more historical information as well. So I'm not too sure. I know he reached out to me about finding information. Sometimes you can find stuff on HABs that were done back in the 70s. I'm not too sure what he's provided.
Really great photos.
They are great.
Good, good. I did tell him to go to NHA's. They have a lot there. They have made their photographic just awesome now. So I read y'all's comments. South elevation, the door window configuration awkward, balcony on the addition okay due to lack of visibility, but I did mention that I recommended a view. So my understanding this was put on their view pack. Our conversation about the wires being underground and then the preferred 9/12 windows. There was a conversation about the overall date of the structure, and therefore that's why the HDC had asked for more information. Nice.
My comments on this were pretty brief, but I'll take, I basically just said the west is, oh, we haven't gotten to the elevations yet, but the west is much better. And the north where the balconies are, just check for visibility.
This is one of my favorite maps.
So do we have a date for it or not?
Didn't look like he
I
indicated
always
it on.
assumed it was some kind of burn-like structure like that.
The date that I found, this is a prime example of why updating our surveys is very important. The NHL data indicated early 1800s. I couldn't find an HDC survey without physically pulling the file. He did, and I think it said 1850s. I'm not sure what date this map is. It's one of my favorite maps.
That one's 1858.
Is it 1858?
I just have to run out for 1 second for work. I'll be right back.
But again, this structure used to be part that was of Main Street. It was all one property at one point. So more than likely, it was an outbuilding.
Yeah,
Associated.
Caritas kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was looking for visibility and as far as the balconies in the back end, I really, I couldn't find a vantage point that it would be visible, although there's still foliage. Oh, there's that middle picture there. Okay.
Yeah.
That is somewhat visible.
Can you see the balcony level of that? Let's see the spire. Well,
Oh, no, it's not. I was looking at that middle picture, but that's the gabled structure that's kind of running parallel with the gable of the church is obstructing the view of the place we're talking about.
I think so too.
Sorry. So it's not visible from Maine?
Pretty, it doesn't appear to be. Pretty hard to tell.
Is that an evergreen? Yeah, I think you'd be hard pressed to see this.
Holly, Remember the age of Hadwin House?
1847.
Thank you, Mary.
I was a tour guide there a long time ago.
I just always wondered if this is a back structure to one of the main street structures. That it was a barn. Or
Mhm.
their outbuilding potentially, maybe even at some point a candle manufactory. I just think a balcony is inappropriate, but that's just my 2 cents.
How about the window changes on the west and the east?
I'm not really a fan. Again, I think there's probably a lot more information about this building out there than they've found.
Right.
I think this is better than what was presented before. Were there French doors or something, or the door was closer? But it still bugs me that there are two doors on the same, what is kind of the facade, you know, in the same plane. Actually, is that three? what? There's a shed door too, but yeah, I would much rather see that be a window or a door facing the back. Right now, it's screened so heavily with vegetation and so forth. I think it would be challenging to see it even if you were looking for it, but it's, you know, you can't always count on that.
So you said you prefer not to have that French or that 15 light door on that elevation. Can I go in the back somehow?
I think it would just be better if those were just windows there. But I'm sure that's part of the program of the room is to have a door out.
Okay. Any other comments? So what I have is I just that on the west elevation is better, but prefer to have the door on the back elevation. And on the north, check for visibility if visible balcony is not appropriate. That sound good? Okay. Next, 6 Jefferson.
What about Harborview? Oh, never mind.
Okay. So provided your comments regarding the dormers. Unbalanced flush dormer with deck inappropriate, double third floor balcony window inappropriate, towering very much visible with third floor balcony.
All right. I think what I'll do here is again, I'll read my comments and then you can add to them as needed. So I said, adding a third floor deck on the front of any building is inappropriate and unprecedented. This is highly visible from the street. Altering and adding more height to the southeast gable in this way is very awkward. Adding a third floor to this narrow side gable is too big a stretch and doesn't work. Second floor porch roof is fine. So Lucy? Anything more? Shaking your head.
I agree. It's totally inappropriate.
Angus?
I agree with what you've read. By going up in this inappropriate way, it the primary gable begins to have serious competition of what's secondary and what's primary, and it's just proportionally going up is awkward. I think you've already said that.
Okay. Do you want to add more to what I said, or leave it, or? I said altering and adding more height to the southeast gable in this way is very awkward. And I'll add, and competes with the main mass. Forward gable. Okay. Anything more? Moving
Are the
on.
AC units indicated?
They don't, they're not applying for them, and it's an addition. It's just not coming up. So let's move on to the next, which is 132 Main Street.
So I mentioned everybody's comments about the mock-up that was visible, recommended the setback off the eave line, panels more than 2 inches off the roof. Which I believe there was a vote 2-2. So that's why they came back for revisions. They did not deny it. Let's see what they got.
I like that they're proposing doing the foot back from the edge. It really would be great, since they've got the whole mock-up stuff already up there, that if they could just push it back so that it's a foot from the edge and let's view it again. I think that'd be helpful.
You want to request it to be held again for revisions after changing the mock-up?
I think we were presuming that if it was pushed back a foot, it wouldn't be visible, but we wouldn't know unless it goes back a foot.
Okay.
I mean, it looks like they're proposing to go back a foot, which is great.
They
But
were
what-
also not proposing the entire roof to be changed black, only under the solar, and the commission did not like that. So now they're actually going to replace the entire roof to black asphalt, which is obviously better.
Was that roof even visible?
Not really.
I thought just the edge of the panel was.
I can't remember. Holly, do you still have those photographs?
They're suggesting they re-roof all the dormer roofs and the main roof in black.
Correct.
I don't see how it's necessary, but that's their choice.
All right, so you all recommend a view with this addition of 1 foot off?
I mean, it's really going to be, there's no lack of visibility on this. All you do is turn your head back and look at the as you walk further up Main Street and turn your head back, you can see it
Well, that's a good
on that
question,
side.
Jason. Do you think that that is true?
Maybe we need new photographs, as far back until another adjacent house is obstructing it.
Yeah, just because it's high. I mean, you cross over this across the street, and you're basically like near like Liz Hilgers or what. You can see that. You can see that.
I don't recall seeing much when I was standing in front of Liz's.
It's also going to be shiny, and it's going to be popped up off of the dormer.
So Lucy, did you walk up and down pretty far to view this?
For the last time when this is submitted, was it last week? I had given Holly some photographs. And you could see the edge of the 2x4s. My comment, as I recall, was because we had a discussion on the profile of the solar panels, that we should say that they should not stick up above the roof by a certain amount,
Mhm.
so that regardless of what the thickness of the solar panels was, that however they attach them to the roof is not going to jack them up higher beyond whatever, you know what I'm saying?
So Lucy, this is a photo that you provided showing their mock-up on there. Of course, it's not indicating, being away from the edge.
Yeah.
Do they
maybe
give you a? Sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Did they give you an elevation of the south side?
Yes.
Because I'm just curious about what kind of there's some kind of porch and a balcony back there, right?
Yes, they gave all. Maybe not. Thought they did. No, I'm incorrect. Just the west, east, and north.
I'm just wondering how much roof is on either side of that balcony back there that provide a less visible place for some of the panels.
Or even the panels to the, just do the panels to the right of the chimney, not the ones towards the front of the house. Oops, excuse me. I'm sorry. I got the wrong. Do only do the panels away from the street.
Yeah, there was room on the south little bump or something.
Porch or whatever it
You
is.
could remove some of them from the doors that were closest to Main Street.
Well, having done panels at our house, I know there's a point of better return on your investment if you just do a few panels versus you do more. So it's, I think the real question is how visible are they? And I know I'm kind of assuming, Lucy, that if you walked up and down Main Street and viewed this, you were taking pictures from the best vantage point to see the panels. Are you pretty confident that at least from Main Street and the sidewalk across the street that they're just not visible?
Well, now that Jason mentioned it, I did not walk up much farther. I don't think I really walked up farther than Liz Hilgers.
Well,
I
look at,
pretty much stayed across the street and up a little ways and down a little ways. I mean, if you walked farther up toward Peyton Circle, maybe you could see it.
the Holly, can you bring up the locust map, the town locust map? There you go. Can you just zoom in as best you can on that? There's a building just to the west of this house. Much more forward than this one. So at some point, when you walk up Main Street, you're just going to get completely blocked by this neighboring building. So I don't think you'll see it down by Hilgers or much past, not at all at Lowell Place even, because of the angle. So I'm feeling fairly comfortable that walking further away isn't really going to change much because of the neighboring houses, at least to the west. The east, I really can't say for sure. Um, no, maybe we just have to ask them to view it one more time with the mock-up panels moved and be very certain of the lack of visibility.
Sounds good. Recommend view.
Recommend view. So I'm saying would like to see mock-up moved and viewed again.
And Holly, could we confirm exactly how high the panels would sit off the roof? How
Well,
high
the-
the top of the panel? And that includes all hardware, everything.
Isn't he indicating that in here? Maybe I'm not understanding your question. He says that the panels are moved towards the ridge at the dormer.
Well,
There's cross section, yeah.
yeah, there is a cross section, but it's, you never know. You're gonna have to put let's just say, a sheet of plywood underneath or something.
The detail shows 1.5 inches off of the panel to the bottom of the bracket. That's assuming the bracket's right on the asphalt. But I'm saying in my comments that limit the height above roof to 2 inches, which is even more than what they're saying. So that's part of our comments.
Okay, I have one other question.
Okay.
Do people ever put a roof on top of a roof?
Historically, we have had that done.
Yeah, and that would even make it more visible, right?
Well, you're still adding, the final layer will conceal it as best as well as the first layer. If they didn't strip it and they added a roof of a layer of asphalt on top of the existing, you'll still have the same exposure appearance.
You're not going to want to pay for asphalt shingles to put on top of existing asphalt. That's totally against the manufacturer specs.
Probably is, but it's been done before. It's a good point, but I don't think it's really going to hurt us any on this one.
It happens all the time.
That is a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing. People are too lazy to take it off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of weight.
And then they have issues later on.
Okay, are we good with this one? Let's go to the next, which is 38 Prospect.
Oops.
Don't even meet well on
Yes, it is.
Add comments into the record. And Mickey, I don't know if you watched the last meeting, but I don't know what happened, but I was asked where your comments were before, but I'm like, that's the whole reason why he swapped. The placement was based on y'all's comments, so I don't know where that came from. But anyway,
Are these revisions after the comments,
yes,
after the HDC comments?
yes.
Okay.
He's dated these November 9th review. So,
Thank you.
yes. Yep. Previous submission. So here's showing the how everything changed. Okay. I don't know what elevation you'll want to start on, but
Holly, go down to the low, keep going down, and there's submission. Those two at a time.
I didn't get anything you just said. Sorry.
Sorry, go down one more page, I think.
This
There-
one?
Yeah, that's the new submission.
Yes.
West and south.
Facing North Mill. Yes.
West faces North Mill, south faces Prospect. So if you want, I can read my comments and again, adjust as needed. So looking at the west elevation, I said the ridge is too long. The flush dormer on the front is awkward. Windows on front should be consistent and simpler, all 6/6. Delete the small windows beside the front door. Front door should be a 4 or 6 panel. Front porch doesn't fit into the neighborhood. The Frakers house has a front porch, but that's, excuse me, that's an 1880 house. So the porch was probably added later. And the hip ends of the front porch don't relate well to this house or the neighborhood. That was it for my comments.
I agree with you, Mickey. And I know this sounds a little weird, but considering where it's going and the nature of at least the historic properties immediately around it, it looks really weird to be there without a chimney.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I thought of that myself in the middle of the night. Forgot that, but I agree. It should have a chimney.
Yeah, just in the main mass, not in the.
Yeah.
It just kind of hulks too. It's too that wing in the back should come down more. And this is really visible from Prospect.
Yeah. Angus, any thoughts?
I think you've put it well. The glaring thing for me is sort of how that massing goes on the front, and the hip roof feels uncharacteristic. So yeah, I agree with everything you said. And the chimney, Jason.
Lucy, any additions? No? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Now the second, or the cottage on the agenda shows it also is tracking with the main dwelling. But I still think we should add our comments because I'm not sure we've seen the latest iteration on this one.
Yeah, this says old business from the 20th, and it does say motion to hold for revisions. So I would agree with you to make comments on the
Okay.
as well.
Good.
Let's see.
Okay, so that's the latest proposal right there with changes. Again, I'll read what I had written about this one. Okay, in terms of the siding, he's still showing it skewed, I think, at a kind of an angle, almost not quite parallel to Prospect, but pretty close, and it's at an angle to the main house. So I said it should align with the house and be further from Prospect Street. And it should have more of a converted barn feel. Probably no dormers facing Prospect Street, which is that south elevation. And the north dormers, smaller or broken up a little bit. Maybe even a shallower roof pitch. Batten doors, like a barn. Maybe less symmetrical to feel a little bit more utilitarian. And I said 12 over 12 or 12 light fixed sash, as an old barn might have had. And to look at old photos of old barns in town for examples. I mean, he's obviously not going with the barn look here, but I think that that's where I would prefer to see this going.
I agree. For such a building that's not too tall, it really feels tall. And that's another thing I have an issue with, the feeling of that as you drive down Prospect Street. Because it's basically right where you're going down the hill, and it just feels like a wall.
It's going to be, I think, even more visible as you're driving up Prospect, and it's going to come around that curve, right? Angus?
I agree with what you've said, especially about simplifying this Prospect Street facing facade to simplify by removing the dormers, have a lower eave line, and you're right about, you know, the more the formality gets removed, the more utilitarian it'll look, and I think set into the setting more appropriately. The height, I mean, I've had a sleeping space in the second floor of a house that was 14 feet high. So this is 7 feet higher. So I would really like to see that roof come down some more.
Okay.
You know, 4 feet would be great. But it feels very vertical for the footprint that it has.
Okay. So I'm going to add 2 vertical and 2 tall. I already said lower the roof pitch, so that'll kind of help that too a little bit. Lucy, you're on mute.
I totally agree with the barn look with you, Mickey. I think especially with the grade change in its location, I think that's a totally appropriate style for a secondary dwelling there.
Yeah, good.
And being an owner of a barn,
Hmm.
you can do a lot with them.
Yeah. Yeah. You can see the alignment with, you know, kind of in between Prospect and the house. Let's tweak it over some more. There's no reason not to.
One last thing about the height and the roof pitch. I don't think this is going to be as successful if you keep the eave and lower the pitch so that the ridge drops. I think that the eave wants to drop,
Okay. So
even at the expense of a steeper pitch if need be.
shallow roof pitch and lower, shallow roof pitch and lower eave.
Thanks.
Okay, I think we've covered that one. Jason, did you have more comments on that? You good? All right. Next. 15 meter.
All right. So, my 15 meter. So I gave them your comments. Trying to remember if it was this one. Yeah, there's a big discussion about these dormers. And I mentioned how there was no historical information provided on all three of these. So there's cottage A. Options. Provided options.
So there's three things going on here. The front elevation has, which is you're seeing at the bottom row there, she's providing three options for dormers there. There's the chimney on the back, the west elevation's still there, even though we said it's inappropriate on the outside. And that west dormer, she actually improved a little bit by taking it further away from the gable end of the roof. So my comments were chimney should be inside and probably doesn't meet the code anyway. And on the east dormer dominates roof plane, not appropriate on the front of this building. I think for all three versions, it just doesn't work. And in the west dormer, I said the new west dormer is fine.
Holly, could you just enlarge the page a little bit? Sorry.
Does that look better?
I agree with the comments. The front roof plane is so small compared to, all the other parts of this building to pack a dormer into this. I agree, doesn't look right. And it's, no matter how you cut it, it's going to have to be pretty much flush. So I don't know what option one and two are about, because that's pretty much flush anyway. And the same thing about the chimney. It should be, to be built to code, it's got to be higher, and it should be on the inside, because it's not just being on a low eave wall, but it's also the whole flood height of the extra 5 feet or whatever. So it's there's so many reasons to it pointing to it being more appropriate inside, if there's even going to be one. Be great if they did a gas fireplace or something, direct vent.
Yeah, Holly, can you scroll down one or two more pages? And there's a photograph of the two houses. There you go. And you can see the neighbor has already done this dormer. Not quite the same way she's proposing it. And I can't tell if it's set back from the face of the building or if it's flush. I'm guessing it's set back a little bit. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but it must have been approved.
So that was brought up to the commission, and one of the commission members said, well, we don't want the Disneyland effect, and don't think we should duplicate. So at least that was taken in consideration.
Good.
If
I
you're
agree with that.
comparing these two houses, I mean, look at the purity of the one to the right, and it feels more historic. And it just, even though it's up in the air, if you're ignoring that part and you're just looking at the rest of it, it feels like, yeah, that seems appropriate. But then you look next to it with the dormer, and it looks out of place. And I'd hate to see the same mistake made twice.
I agree.
Okay. Listen.
No, I agree with everyone.
Okay. Next is Six Harbor View. Similar.
All right, same thing. And thanks to you all, I was able to really bring it to their attention about the height of the chimney. That should be taller, so let's see what they did.
Eliminated the chimney entirely, and so I think all we're approving here is the outdoor shower. Although she's still showing a fireplace inside, which means there's going to be a gas vent on the outside, which should be shown. I think that needs to be approved also. My comments on this were show the vent, but I had no concerns with the way it's gone.
What side faces the street? I can't remember.
South elevation, right?
Yes, the one with the bay window, Oriole window.
Faces Harbor View Way.
Correct.
Okay.
Mackey,
And
no,
back-
Mackey Way, sorry.
Mackey Way. So the
I think.
No, I
the
think
bay
it's,
window faces Mackey Way.
no, it faces Harbor View, south.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yep, right here.
I'm confused. I know the house, but does it?
The south elevation right here. Here's the
Yeah, that's
Yes.
Harbor View Way.
yes.
So where is the outdoor shower? Right next to the bay window?
On the back.
They both have.
Okay, because there's a bay window on either side. But does that
Right.
against that little alleyway? Sorry. No,
It's okay.
no.
Yes, I would think so.
Well, it's actually, no, yeah.
If
Oh,
you
there it is. Sorry, I can see it
compare-
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to be looking at a shower stuck on the side of a bay window facing the road.
True. Good point.
right there.
Can't it go like in the area of the little washer dryer room? On the outside, obviously. Be less offensive.
Right
Yeah.
here.
You're still gonna probably see it, but it looks really, really ridiculous stuck next to a bay window.
Mhm.
I agree. I
Thank
think
you.
that's a good point. And it's hard to say if there's room in there, but I think that
Oh, wait, it looks like there's a step. Well, they can figure it out. I just think it looks silly next to a bay window.
so I'll change my comments and say that tower should be on the side of the building rather than facing the K-way.
Yeah, because it's basically going on the front of the house. I mean, if you're on Mackey Way.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that one. Okay. Good. Anything else? On to our last one, 14 Easy Street.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why this one keeps on coming back, but it does. So of course they listened to the comments. We would rather have the 3 than the 4, not have the sliders in the old historic district. Let's see what they came back with. Quad French door sliding.
Everybody submitted before. My comments on this one were sliders are not appropriate in the old historic district, never on the front of a house. Prefer 3 panels to 4 panels, which is what we've said in the past. So we'll keep saying it. Anything else?
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay. That was easy. Okay, that's it. So Holly, I will send you my notes.
Okay.
So you
Thank
have,
you.
and you probably have other notes that you might contribute to those too.
Yep.
Is this format working for everybody?
Great.
Thank you
Nice.
for doing
Thank you.
that.
Yep. That's very
It's a lot of
helpful.
work.
Okay.
Can I make a motion for approving the comments?
Thank you.
Seconded
Second.
by Lucy, all those in favor, Angus,
Aye.
Lucy,
Aye.
Aye.
I'm in favor.
So as far as other business goes, if you haven't heard already, Resilient Nantucket, the MVP Action Grant project that we've been working on, the consultants are going to be doing a community design guideline charrette. Would encourage everybody's participation because you all are part of this whole process. We're going to have it on Saturday, November 14th. And you'll actually be able to meet virtually our other consultant, Phil Thomason, who is an NAPC, National Alliance Preservation Commission's chair member. He's done all sorts of design guidelines all up and down the Eastern Seaboard. And he, of course, long story short, he's been doing his best to work on this project without physically coming to Nantucket due to COVID, but hopefully he'll be able to come here sooner rather than later. But this will be an introduction to what they're going to be presenting. And of course, feedback is going to be paramount. So that's the 14th. The link is on the website as well as on our agenda. And then, of course, a reminder for your reappointment applications. For those of you that are expired or going to be expiring, those are due soon. And then, of course, obviously, for just a reminder of our second day of camp next Friday, the National Alliance Preservation Commission's camp. And I hope you all have been able to attend, have enjoyed it so far. And we've got the great people giving us that class. So
Good.
How late did it go? I signed off at 12.
12:30-ish. I mean,
Oh.
if you signed off around there, yeah, that's about right. Maybe 12:15. And of course, it's all recorded. So for those of you that weren't able to attend, Jason, you'll be able to review it at your leisure whenever I receive the recording. So don't feel bad on that. But I think we had a good amount of, people that are in HDC advisory, HDC. We only had a couple, but mostly historical commission and a lot of staff members for the town. So it was a good amount of folks.
And so we'll be getting the Zoom link later in the week then for that.
I will be, it's the same exact Zoom link, but I will be sending another reminder email with that same information.
Okay, great.
Yep. No
Good.
problem.
Thanks, Holly.
You're welcome. Hope you're enjoying it. Something I've been pushing for quite a long time. So,
All right. Thank you, Holly. I have a motion for what?
Motion to adjourn?
Adjourn. Thank you.
Get out of there.
Second.
Aye.
Okay. Lucy, Angus,
Aye.
good. Jason,
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Holly.
thank you
Bye.
all.